Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ONOG Circuit 2016. We have crossed over. I'm Krip, and I'm joined by ThatsAdmirable. We haven't really cast too much in a little while, but we've been chilling out here, waiting for the tournament to start, and we're feeling pretty good. I hope you guys are excited. We have some pretty cool Hearthstone matches ready for you guys. How you doing today, Admirable?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's been quite a while. The Aces Play It Cool event, I believe, is the
Oh, that was some
24-hour
time ago.
streamathon. Yeah, 12-hour stream, 12 hours of casting in a row. It was a great time. Happy to be here for this event, though. Seeing top four of these guys who fought through an open event, and they're here to play some games for you guys today.
Yeah, there were a lot of players. It seemed like there were, I think, 64 players that were in the open event to qualify for today's tournament. And here we are in the final four that we're going to present the matches and show you guys what's going on. Out of all the participants, I took a look through and saw a lot of first timers, that kind of stuff. I didn't recognize that many names, just a few here and there. But when it came to the finals, well, it's quite a few familiar faces. We have a Shoop versus the Rat in our first match, and then our second match will be Phone Tap versus Chalky. So some of these players, a bit successful. Some more than others, but definitely recognizable. It's somewhat of a starstruck Final Four here.
Yeah, to me, the fact that we had three players that have been so recently consistently performing in the points race for this winter championship that's coming up is really, I think, a very big talking point. The fact that you see three of these guys that really stand out in the top four of this event, it really speaks to how much practice and effort they've been putting in. You know, you practice that much, eventually your results are going to start to show through.
That's right, and they are playing for some things that matter quite a bit. It is the start of the year, but Blizzard has made some announcements recently trying to amp up the competition on their World Championship, and this is in fact a tournament that awards World Championship Tour points. I believe first place gets 3, second place today gets 2, and third and fourth get 1 point apiece. They're also playing for some monies. First place taking home 500, second 300, third 150, fourth $50, and they're also playing for Geico points. You guys are probably, what are Geico points? Well, we're going to have quite a few tournaments throughout the ONOG season this year, and the Geico points will basically put people ahead and into some of the feature tournaments. So there's going to be the open tournaments, and we're going to see who does well in those. And over time, there will be these more structured tournaments that are basically going to be invitations for people who've done well in the other one. This is kind of a way to quantify how well these guys have done.
Yeah, all this is actually going to culminate into a final event at PAX Prime in August as well, where over the course of this circuit, $60,000 is being given away. It is only open to U.S. residents. But if you guys want more info about how you can enter these tournaments and start competing, you can go to geico.onog.gg and find out more information about it.
And you can also, once you're there, enter for your chance to win an Alienware X51R3 PC. And you can see there right in the middle. It's very easy to enter, so make sure you guys check out the info and put your little raffle ticket in the bucket. Maybe you can come home with a little bit more than entertainment after tonight.
Yeah, I personally am kind of in the market for a new computer myself, so maybe I can go enter the raffle and see if I can try my hand at some luck. You know, maybe my Hearthstone luck hasn't been the best in the last season or so. Maybe it'll turn around right here.
I heard you did quite well in one of the ONOG. I think ONOG had a match at PAX earlier last week, and I thought you did pretty well in that one.
I did okay. They had an open event at PAX where if you were there at the venue, you could just walk up and sign up. And
Hmm.
Monk told me I should play in it, so I gave it a whirl, and we won it. But
I
that's
mean,
kind of just
winning's okay,
that's how
right?
I expect to do when I enter a tournament. If I don't win it, I'm going to be very disappointed with myself
All
afterwards.
right.
Being such an esteemed player with 0 wins prior to that one.
All right. Well, the players are about to start. Again, our opening match for tonight is going to be Shoop versus the Rat. The Rat used to be a very well-known patron player, but Blizzard has changed his fate a little bit in recent times. So the Rat has tried to move along with more standard decks. The Rat is bringing Druid, Paladin, and Warlock, and Shoop is bringing Druid, Paladin, and Shaman. Now, what's your take on this Shaman deck? It's probably going to be the I point things at your face Shaman deck with Overload. You like
Yeah,
this?
that's one of the stronger builds I'd say of Shaman that's going to be out there right now. Is
Mm-hmm.
play your guys, start attacking. It's not a really a subtle strategy. You just kind of get going. But something that's kind of surprising to me is that the Rat's actually not playing this build. In January, I know that he reached rank number 1 on ladder at some point playing that specific build and
Mm-hmm.
was doing fantastic with it. But last season, he also reached rank number 1 playing Zoo in February, or I'm sorry, in January. It was December and January of the seasons, not January and February.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, he's been doing fantastic with aggro decks. So I'm a little bit surprised that's not in his lineup because right now, I think this is one of the best ones that's out there.
All right. Well, the Flame Juggler is a ridiculously good counter here to the 1/1 spam.
Yeah, it does pick up Keeper of the Grove, though. That's certainly one of the more important cards, I'd say, in this matchup. Just being
Mm-hmm.
able to get something on board and disrupt your opponent's board is really what this matchup is about. When the Shaman gets going, it will absolutely punish you for not being able to answer all the minions they play.
Yeah, and that Tunnel Trog, if it was not answered, it would have been a 3/3 behind 2 taunts. So, and that the swipe would not have traded very favorably either, and a bit off curve. Um, Man, this hand is a little bit clunky here. He's got the Innervate, which usually gives you a lot more options, but it seems like he's going to have to use it to Ancient Allure because otherwise, neither of these two are going to be played.
Yeah, this is sort of an interesting spot here too. I mean, typically in this matchup, I would say you want your Ancients of Lore to actually be healing you to offset. I mean, your minions are so big and so efficient that you fight pretty well against what the Shaman typically opposes. But here the Rat's having to use this to actually draw cards. That being said, he did Wild Growth and then Innervate into this, so getting it this early might present a big problem for Shoop just because the Rat's having so many more options. If he can't really mount a solid offense here, we could find this maybe turning in the favor of the Rat and getting his own offense mounted before Shoop is able to close.
Well, we'll see. It looks like the Shaman will get quite a bit more damage before the Rat can begin to recover, though. A Lava Shock frees up 2 crystals. He has the coin to play up to 3 mana here. Looks like he's thinking about using the coin to try to put up more taunts on the board. But, yeah, reconsiders with the Totem Golem.
Yeah, kind of a tough spot because ideally you want to be playing Doomhammer as soon as you have availability to it. And we can see he doesn't have it in his hand, but should he draw it, he's going to really have regret using the Feral Spirit if he draws that Doomhammer. It's really the bread and butter card of this Shaman deck. You launch all your minions on the board, they deal a bit of damage, they'll get cleaned up pretty effectively by your opponent, but then the Doomhammer provides too much reach for them to actually deal with. They usually can't kill you before the Doomhammer just presents too much damage
Well,
on a single card.
the Red has a really big decision here. With Swipe, you can actually trade favorably with the board, but next turn he's just kind of starting to play things through, and instead he can try to start playing things now by playing the Emperor. What do you think like the risk versus reward here is? Like, do you play the Emperor, hope you don't get like crushed in the following turn, or do you kind of limit the incoming damage by throwing a Swipe on the Totem Golem?
I think it's pretty close either way. Honestly, the Emperor certainly presents a little bit more of a risk, and I think this decision is more made by the fact that he's got a second Ancient Allure in his hand. If he didn't have that additional heal for 5, I think he would feel a little bit more pressure to actually get damage going this turn. But because he has the Ancient Allure, I think he feels comfortable just playing it a bit more defensively than normal and hoping he can close it afterwards.
All right, well, the Shaman continues to populate the board very aggressively here, and pointing those things at the face is generally how this deck works.
What do you think about the Druid play there, by the way? I mean, that's a very different direction to take. I mean, on one hand, he's got an extremely risky play he can make, but on the other one, he's got like a very defensive position. Which one of those do you tend to favor in a spot like this when you're facing this much pressure?
Well, he does go with the Emperor. It does feel like his hand is very slow. I mean, the Force of Nature really would not have done very much. It would have cleared a little bit, but even less so than the Swipe would have last turn. So I think that's probably his decision making. He's just going for, the higher value play in terms of the board state.
Yeah. Oh my, this is going to be certainly a close one here. Shoop just picked up a Doomhammer and a Rockbiter. thanks to that life tap from Sir Finley. I mean, that's 10 damage from hand next turn, plus the damage he has on the board right now.
Right, but we have to consider that if the rat heals himself, I believe he's out of lethal range, um, and Emperor's Tick will put a 22 damage combo on the board. So if either minion stays alive,
Yeah, it's actually 23 damage with hero power next turn as well, and Shoop happens to be at 23. So Shoop actually needs the damage to end this game this turn. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
well,
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
if he clears, he doesn't die.
No, the rat's got access to 23 out of hand. With
Is it
Force
23?
Nature, 2 Savage
Oh
Roars,
yeah,
and
he
the
can hero power. The hero power puts him over.
Yes, that is actually a very crucial thing to note right here. Shoop needed the damage to close this game. If he rolled 6 on Crackle, how much damage would that be? Well, he's already pointed at Ancient of Lore, and Shoop doesn't have the damage to end this.
Yeah, the 6 Crackle would not have done it because Rockbiter would do the same damage, and he couldn't play both. So he was off lethal no matter what. Yeah, I don't believe there was any kind of play. I don't believe there's any play that Shoop would have had to not lose here.
Yeah, I totally agree. The rat he had the defense mounted early. The second Ancient Lore healed him up, and this is his hand after 2 Emperor activations. You're just not going to beat that.
Nope.
Wow. I mean, what a game. And this is why Force Nature Savage Roar is one of the most balanced combinations in the game.
Yeah, I mean when Blizzard talked about how they're going to restructure the ladder and tournament structure, you know, there were quite a lot of guesses at what cards in the classic set might receive some change, and that is one of the most popular ones. I'm going to be very anxious to see what people can do with the Druid. I don't feel Druid is a bad class if you take that out. We've seen, you know, ramp Druids and that kind of stuff kind of work over time, but man, when it's just so tempting and so easy to put those cards in every single Druid deck, exactly for the reason that we had just witnessed.
Yeah, I mean, just the ability to have such a high end game reach potential with those cards, as well as Force Nature being able to couple as a utility spell in the right situations. You know, that's really, when I think of changes that could potentially come from those sets, Force Nature definitely comes to mind. I think Savage Roar is an okay card. It requires a bit of setup and your opponent to have ignored the minions you have in play to really be too effective. But Force of Nature really feels like the card that you can do some damage to, and rather than just see that card's cost increased, I think I'd like to see it continue to be tilted in the vein of a utility card. You know, say it makes, you know, just pure speculation here. Say it makes 3 1/1 charges that can only attack minions for 2 mana. That seems like a great anti-minion spell.
Oh, it's funny. I'm kind of on the opposite side of that. I feel like Savage Roar is the card that should be nerfed, just because I've been on the back end of some very unfair aggro Druid games. So yeah, maybe, you know, maybe I'm just being a bit upset about that. But it does feel like all these cards that potentially can seal out a game very quickly, create situations that are easier to abuse than even the 9 mana combos. So
Yeah.
In either case. We'll only see, you know, maybe a little bit more Druid in this matchup. Shoop still has to win with his own Druid deck. These players, their main difference is the Shaman and the Warlock. Now, what's your take on Warlock these days? It feels like Reno Lock is kind of struggling against some of the aggressive decks. Like, even against Shaman, I feel like it's sometimes just a little bit too slow. Like, Reno Jackson actually costs 6 mana, and that's kind of a lot sometimes. To heal to full with 6 mana, I don't know if that's going to work in some of these situations. But it looks like it's not that deck. It looks like the Rat is playing and bringing Zoo to the tournament once again.
Yeah, not a big surprise to see him bring Zoo again. He performed so fantastic with this deck last season, reaching rank number 1, and then just in the final moments of the season being overtaken at that rank 1 position. Not a big surprise to be seeing him play it. But kind of going back and talking about the Reno Jackson builds, I think people have just kind of started to find ways to fight that deck the way it's supposed to be fought. I mean, really the way it works is, does he have Reno Jackson or does he not have Reno Jackson? And so you kind of just go for it, and they don't have Reno Jackson a little bit more than 50% of the time going into that turn 6 spot. And when they don't have it, a lot of times they typically tend to lose in that situation. If you have just
Yep.
completely gone, full on, let's get you shaman or warlock deck, just point the damage at the face and hope it works. And so the Reno players, kind of seeing that players are tending to take that strategy, have adjusted accordingly and started playing different decks.
Hmm. Well, the Shaman does get a bit of a slow start here. He had the 1-drop, but it's not the 1-drop of choice. He had the 2-drop, but it can't really trade favorably for the board. And he had overloaded himself a little bit too much to continue on and do what he wants.
Yeah, this is really, I think, one of the scariest spots for Shaman at this point, is facing down turn 3 Bran and not having just the cards on board to kill it. He's going to have to be faced with a decision this turn, and very quickly makes his decision to say, have your Bran, I'm going to push damage and hope that you don't have a way to deal with this. And
Well,
right away...
This is going to be a disaster here. The
Yeah.
Defender of Argus is going to give him 2 free trades, and the Imkang boss is going to finish off the Totem Golem that he started picking a fight with the last turn.
That's
Perfect.
the danger of leaving that Bran up as well, is this massively punishing of an effect. I mean, the Rat's, sure, he's at 21, but he's got a full board presence. Shoop has none, and has to figure out a way to get 21 damage out of these cards.
Well, he can Lava Shock Bran and finish him off with the Charger, but again, he's just so far behind. If the Shaman can't take the board against the Warlock, it's just not going to work. Like the Warlock's minions are like an endless supply. Like this is Zerg right here. They just keep coming.
What's your take on that turn, by the way? Would you have tended to take care of Bran in that position, you think?
I mean, how many battle cries can you really expect? I mean, even a deck that runs Bran, I feel like it's probably in the area of about 1/3 of the minions have decent battle cries. So I don't think it's too high of a priority. But I mean, I just don't see how he's going to win in general. So I can't really blame him for making any kind of play.
You're like, you know what? He's just doomed from the start. So good play. Try to get him. Hope he doesn't have it.
Well, I really think that the Shaman could have done just fine. Missing a play on turn 3 is just absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, the Warlock didn't miss a beat, and the Shaman did. And the Shaman is the one that is running out of resources constantly. So it's really on the Shaman to start winning the game and remain in the winning position. If that doesn't happen, it's just not going to work out for him.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you too. I mean, it's always dangerous, of course, to leave Bran up, but the choice of killing Bran, I mean, what does that leave you with? Say he decides to go for Crackle there instead. Even if he Crackles for 4 or greater, he's missing that turn 3 drop, which is, I think, kind of the critical spot there. So I think I'm in agreement with you. Just ignore that it exists, hope your opponent doesn't have the right combination of cards, and look to push for the win afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And this Loatheb is huge. A lot of this Shaman deck relies on comboing spells with minions to effectively, push for a board or lethal state. And being behind and getting Loatheb in this position it's so limiting.
Yeah. With that, if that juggle had missed, the Rat actually had 20 points of damage this turn with 2 power overwhelmings as well. So still a little bit off here, but with a commanding position on the board. I don't see him lose control of this one.
Well, that was a bit unlucky there.
Continues to clear a bit as well, but again, just in such a commanding position, it's going to be, unless Shoop has got about 16 lightning bolts tucked under that lava burst there, I don't think he's going to pull this game out.
Well, he can get him to 19, and then if he gets a spell damage, he can do 7 and 6. Actually, I think he could win. I think
7, 6, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17,
I think
18.
if he top decks the other Crackle or a Lightning Bolt, he is actually going to win. Well, he's not because of the power overwhelms, I guess.
Yeah, from his perspective, he actually has ways to win this game, which is that's what he's thinking about right now, is what is his best chance to actually have that outcome. It's very difficult for him to ever know the Rat's hand is exactly power overwhelming. In fact, that happens so rarely that I would tend to just ignore that. And hope for the
He
best.
actually had a chance going into this game, or this turn, I mean, if he got a taunt totem and used the Rock Biter to clear the doggy, and then top deck to Crackle, and then Max rolled all 3 with a spell damage totem next turn. That would have actually done it.
You know, unfortunately,
Not quite.
not his time today, and he sees 2 power overwhelmings, and he's had enough. Shoop's going to scoop this one up. Rat taking a very quick 2-0 lead here
Against the Shaman.
Yeah, maybe this Shaman deck is. You know, here's the thing. I don't think that he's been doing anything wrong. I think so far just Rat's hands have lined up very well versus what he's trying to present. I mean, his hand versus the Druid was very strong, but Druid opened with Wild Growth, had a Keeper of the Grove, had Swipe on a relatively weak board, and then had 2 Ancient of Lores to gas up and then also heal themselves afterwards, along with Force of Nature, Savage Roar to end the game. I mean, that's a tough one to face against.
It's true, it's tough to face against, but I feel like if the Rat did really any of his moves differently, he would have lost that game. He did win it very marginally against the Shaman. It seems like there's quite a bit of inconsistency here with the Shaman. You're like playing the dice roll, you know, and on the other hand, we haven't seen the Shaman get particularly lucky, but when it does, I think you just feel so cheated on the receiving end of that.
Well, it's a very feast or famine deck. It either succeeds wonderfully and you look like a genius playing it, or it kind of suffers these unfortunate defeats where you kind of look at the Shaman deck and go, why is this considered good again? We're seeing sort of the famine side of it so far, where he hasn't really had super strong openings. Has yet to have a turn 5 Doomhammer. That game he had to face down unchecked Bran into Defender of Argus.
Yeah,
So
it's insane.
those are the dream starts versus this Shaman build. So the fact that the Rat has had builds that can actually come correct with these kinds of opens, I mean, that's a good call in his own right to know that this is a very popular build, especially in tournaments right now where it puts a lot of pressure on some of the lineups that are more pointed at killing control decks and really trying to punish the fact that this is in his lineup. I think this is a good choice for him so far. But this opening hand from Shoop looks much better, and the Rat's opening hand does not look good at all.
It's also a favorable matchup for the Shaman. I think the main reason why Shaman is a successful deck, not only in ladder but also tournaments, is because this Paladin deck it's just not going away by itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. This has one of the most powerful curves in the game where it starts scaling as early as turn 3 with Muster for Battle and continues to play just the best stat for stat minions in the game every single step of the way. And with the Mysterious Challenger not only being such a huge stat minion, but also thinning your deck so that your card quality improves as well. That's a lot of stuff to have to deal with. And just like you mentioned, this is such a powerful and popular deck right now. This Shaman deck is really made to beat this. But the Rat hasn't queued up until game 3. Knowing that Shaman's in the lineup, he wants to try to punish that it's there by waiting to queue this deck into its unfavorable matchup.
Yeah, well, if you looked at the matchups going in, they were playing the same classes with the only difference favoring Shoop. So the Rat just tried to delay that as much as possible, and so far it has worked out very well for him.
So what's kind of your take on this Secret Paladin deck? I know a lot of people think that this thing needs to be nerfed into oblivion. I actually think it should be nerfed for a very different reason, but I'm curious your thoughts on it.
I think it just skews the game a bit too much because very frequently this deck has almost no decision making, and because of that, a lot of people really like playing it because we have to understand, the players who play Hearthstone, they have the full spectrum of abilities. Like, some of them are just starting out, some of them would like to do really well, but haven't played the game that much, they don't know the game that well. This deck kind of propels a lot of like the mediocre or casual players into like a level of success that they're not used to, and I think that's why we see it so much on ladder. Like it's at every single rank. It's absolutely everywhere. And when you have any one deck that does that, it just prevents bad matchups, like decks that can't beat it, from really being played at all. So I think any deck that is very, very powerful and easy to play is not good for the game.
Yep, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, your analysis, I think, is spot on there. The fact that it doesn't... The deck definitely has some meaningful decisions at times, but I don't feel like it has enough meaningful decisions. And it's a good and a bad thing that exists. But, again, the power level that it's at in combination with that, I think, is really what's putting it over the top. I think, but you know, that's sort of just the nature of the beast sometimes too. I mean, those decks are just going to exist from time to time.
Wow,
And
look at that.
wow,
The paladin trades in a way to prevent as much damage as possible, but it's still not enough.
yeah, and that's what this
Shaman
matchup
just
is all
does it.
about.
7 damage Tunnel Trog hit at the end there.
You want to talk about fair? See, that's the thing about it, is sometimes you play this deck. Here's the thing about Secret Paladin. There are definitely ways to beat it out there.
Hmm.
If you want to really build a deck that's going to beat Secret Paladin, you can do that. The problem is what you sacrifice versus all of your other matchups. And I think that's part of the compromise with this Shaman deck. It absolutely trounces Secret Paladin in terms of the long-term percentages. That deck is very favored in the matchup, and it doesn't sacrifice too much versus other matchups that you're left with a deck that only beats Secret Paladin. It's got some pretty good game versus all the other decks that are out there. And so this is really the reason why I think this deck shows up in the metagame and shows up in tournaments so often, is the power level it presents versus the rest of the lineup, and then also the ability to punish Secret Paladin. That game was the perfect example of what the Shaman deck is trying to do.
That's absolutely right. Now, one matchup I'm not too familiar with that perhaps you could shed some light is this Paladin Mirror. Now, we don't know for sure, but I would say it's most likely that both players are playing Secret Paladin decks. What are some of the tech cards that would favor one player over the other?
Well, tech cards, I think it's hard to really tech a lot of stuff in here. You know, there's your 4-drop slot tends to have a couple variations in it. Like some people tend to play with 2 Blessing of Kings. Some people like having 1 True Silver, 1 Consecration, 1 Blessing of Kings. Some people will tend to favor 2 Haunted Creepers. Some people like to go with 1 Haunted Creeper and 1 Ragnaros for more endgame stuff. I would tend to think that the people who are more oriented in the early game have the advantage in this matchup. I mean, you're so often fighting for the board early on that the first person to get a Mysterious Challenger with board presence is usually the one who's favored. If you don't have anything on board, the Mysterious Challenger is trying to play Recovery, which can leave you in tough spots. So the guy who kind of fights for the board early better on is usually the one that comes out on top of this matchup. So that second Haunted Creeper doesn't seem like a lot, but the difference between having a Haunted Creeper and a Ragnaros on turn 2 in your opening hand, that could be the difference between winning and losing at
Yeah.
times.
All right. Well, here we have a very interesting situation where Shoop has the better early and mid game cards, but they just match up so poorly against the board right now.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is actually at times playing Secret Keeper on turn 1 can put you in a spot like this where suddenly you face down a shielded minibot. You don't have a real way to answer it. Your opponent gets to trade a Divine Shield for an entire card that you played.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the muster for battle starts bringing back the game, and the rat has basically no play on turn 3. He's going to have to do Avenge Guy, or he's going to do Avenge Secret Keeper. That's a little bit stronger, but he's reaching for the Secret Keeper right now. We're seeing exactly what you mentioned. Like the players are just scrambling to play whatever they possibly can every single turn to try to keep up or take over the board.
Yeah, I mean he does have that 6, 7, 8, follow up with one of the strongest sequence of plays I think you can make in consecutive turns. The problem is he's got to get to that point. And so, again, sort of what we saw with the Shaman deck, where it just ran over Secret Paladin before he had a chance to start. The Rat never had a chance to recover. His hand right now is constructed in a way to where Shoop is basically playing the exact same matchup he just played. He just wants to play a bunch of stuff, try to run him over, and get going. And here we see True Silver Champion and 2 Blessing of Kings in Shoop's deck. And when I see this much presence in the 4-drop, I would tend to say that he's cut Consecration from his build. He wants to have a minion on board and take advantage of the fact that it's there. And I think in this matchup, that's absolutely correct. Consecration is playing Recovery. You don't want to recover, you just want to stay ahead the whole time.
All right, he makes the attack right away. I'm kind of surprised to see that because if it's Avenge, you can't really fix that. But if it was Get Down, that would have been a travesty.
Yeah, I mean, definitely could have ended disastrously there. And speaking of disaster, the Rat has no play this turn or on turn 5. How is he going to live to play these cards in his hand? I mean, this deck this is all of its top end potentially. There's a chance that he does not have another card that costs 6 or greater in his deck. And he's got them all in his hand right now.
The other thing to note is that because the Rat is going second, that seems to play quite a big difference from what I've seen. if you have the turn 6 Mysterious Challenger, if you're playing your Mysterious Challenger right after your opponent played a Mysterious Challenger, you're in horrible shape most of the time.
Yeah, and picks up a muster for battle, but this may be too little too late. Shoop's hand is just so good at fighting this position right now, and I can think of a draw I think he'd love to pick up right about now.
That's not that one.
And redemption was it!
He's actually doing okay, but no, I feel like this Mysterious Challenger is going to come. I feel like the Rat's basically made it. Like with that muster for battle draw, I think he's going to have enough stuff on the board to stabilize, and those big heavy minions are going to most likely push him over the edge here.
Yeah, we'll have to see how she wants to play this one. Is going to go for hero power and redemption, try to get the most out of this juggler as he can, and save that Keeper of Voldemort to try to swing that Mysterious Challenger turn back in his favor. And I actually like that he's going for this way, because if he chooses to use the Keeper of Voldemort here, how on earth is he going to beat a Mysterious Challenger? But in this position, now it's looking like he may have some legitimate game against it.
Now, how would he have used the Keeper of Voldemort? He'd have to not play the juggler to use it properly. That would kind of suck.
Yeah, I mean, just to get an extra body on board, really. I mean, the fact that he's got Avenge plus the Redemption, I think he's very happy with just holding on to the Keeper of Voldemort. This is just a more statistically efficient play as well.
Ooh, that's a rough juggle, though. He really was looking for that snipe on the 1/1.
Now, this is going to be kind of interesting, though, because he does have an 8-7 in play. And he's got the 1/1 to check the Noble Sacrifice, too. So he's got a 2-turn clock here. With this 8-7 right now, all he has to do is get past this point, which it looks to me like if he procs Noble Sacrifice,
yeah,
uses the Keeper of Voldemort to take the Mysterious Challenger down to a 3/3, I think he's got it locked. So
well,
the bench.
Yeah, he does. The True Silver can take care of the get down.
Yeah, he's going to Keeper of Voldemort that Mysterious Challenger down to a 3/3, so that Avenge plus that extra body, no good at the moment. There's the Shielded Minibot, and half of the Rat's Life Shuttle gone. This is going to be a rough one. I mean, he can kill that 8-7, but can he take care of the rest of this? I don't think he can. I think that True Silver locks it up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the True Silver does do it.
Gosh, such a tough spot, too.
I'm trying to figure out a way. No, I don't think he's got anything, but he's going to take his time. He's going to assume that Shoop doesn't have anything that can push for any additional damage, and given the best case scenario, because usually when you're about to lose, if the worst case scenario kills you, you're just going to discount that, and you're going to play against a potentially terrible hand.
Yeah, I mean, from his perspective, Shoop's got one card left. He's seen 2 Blessing of Kings. True Silver Champion's the last bit of reach left. So in his head, if he gets past 1 turn, he gets stabilized with Tyrion. That's what he's thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So going to try his best. But at the end of the day, Shoop has just enough left over. He can fight through that Noble Sacrifice, and then use Keeper of Voldemort and True Silver Champion. We're going to game number 5.
Unless there's a sequencing error. No sequencing error.
He's like, the 3/4's coming in first. Yeah, Shoop is. I think Shoop's actually done a fantastic job in this set so far.
Absolutely.
Really playing to his strengths and ignoring all the weaknesses. You know, sometimes your weaknesses, your opponent has to have the right cards in order to punish those at times. And so the fact that he's chosen to ignore those very often so far, a lot of strong play we've seen from him.
Our final game will be the Rat on Paladin and Shoop on Druid. Now, Druid is also a class that hasn't seen too much innovation, but there has been a little bit. I'm kind of curious on your take of some of the newer Druid decks. There's been Aggro Druid, which is a little bit more early game. I think a lot of those have cut Ancient of Lores and Force of Natures just to kind of push for the biggest board possible and end with a mid-game Savage Roar. And there's also the Egg Druid that plays a very similar type of game, but with a little bit more buffs. So,
yeah,
I'm kind of curious. What do you think about those decks?
Well, you know me, I love Aggro Druid a lot. Definitely something that's good. in the metagame right now. But I tend to think that the Druids have been going for mind control tech recently over Shades and Axaramis definitely could present a problem with some of the decks that are with some of the aggro matchups that are out there.
Hmm. Man, my control tech, that's one of those cards that is very demoralizing, both playing with it and against it. It's one of those
Yeah.
cards that you just remember all the worst things that ever happened. It's played against you, they take your biggest minion, then you put it in your deck, and you just never get to play it except that one time where it steals like a 1/1.
It's definitely true. Something to note about, by the way, Shoop has he's been playing for about 2 straight hours now, leading up to this event, and sort of a little bit of information about Shoop in the past year. He's played in almost every open event in the last couple of years, and won a few points off of making some of the land finals in some events. He qualified for the and completed the ASUS Assembly Summer 2015. He's currently playing in 2 tournaments at the same time right now, apparently, while he's in this event. And Hearthstone just looks like it's been such a big thing for him. He actually owns a gigantic physical copy of a Molten Giant, and he works as a software developer. So this guy, really got kind of a big footing. It looks like in gaming, and Hearthstone clearly a big passion of his. Glad to see this guy having some success in these tournaments right now.
Yeah, a lot of players, who do want to do well for the World Championship Tour, they really put all that they have into it. And I think especially at the start of the year, that has like, a morale factor. So if you're like in the top at the start, you want to keep going, you like feel the drive. But if you kind of get lazy in the first part of the year, you're like, oh man, I have to win this tournament to just catch up. Oh, what do I do? So it's definitely awesome to see some of these players show their dedication, going into every aspect that they can put it into.
Yeah, sort of that morale effect too. It's the beginning of the year. When the new year rolls around, everyone makes their resolutions. Like for me, for instance, I went out and joined a gym, and then promptly in the first 2 weeks had a slice of cake, and haven't really been back to the gym since. Gonna feel
Yeah,
like I'm gonna need to run a few miles at some point here in February to make up for all the lost time that's been in there. Game number 5 is getting underway, and that is a Jeeves and a Cult Master we see in Shoop's opening hand. Grip, I think this is Egg Druid.
is it? Um, yeah, I think you're right. I think Cult Master is a bit of a rarity, but I've definitely seen Jeeves in this deck, and I
Oh,
mean, Cult Master seems like it makes a lot of sense.
those are definitely some eggs. And I wanted to talk about this build. I'm actually not too big of a fan of the Egg Druid build myself, but having the thousands and thousands of Druid games that I've played, I have pretty much never played without Wild Growth.
Hmm.
And the only times I have, it's when I've had Leper Nub. So this build, honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with it. I have quite a bit of experience against it, though. This deck is
Yeah.
looking to get on the board as early as possible and try to punish the opponent maximally for that. If this build gets disrupted, it can tend to suffer a lot via the lack of important mid to late game cards.
Hmm.
It's trying to take advantage of the board now, and it looks like he has an opportunity to do it.
Oh, it looks like this game is over. Are you serious? Like the paladin strives on playing a lot of minions that are like 1/1s, and it's just too many to deal with. And the egg druid just goes through that amazingly well. Like, a 1/3 taunt dragon egg is insane. Like,
Just look at the rat's body language when he saw that defender of Argus going out on turn 3. He's like snapping the head back and forth, like, "Oh, this is gonna be a rough one, boys." Now, that being said, he does have a pretty heavily weighted hand, so if he gets past this initial assault, he could be in okay shape. The problem is he's got to get past the initial assault, so this is going to be a tough time for him. I'm struggling to see a turn where he doesn't actually use Keeper of Oldemon on this one. I mean, maybe Pilot Shredder has to come down. You just have to invest in future turns, but that's not really the kind of player the Rat is. He likes to get on board and try to take advantage of the fact that he can continuously mount a strong board position. So I think that's what he's going to go for.
it is what he's going to go for. Also, it's great to see some of the strategies unfold already. I mean, the thing I had just noticed is Shoop is basically playing 3 decks that beat Secret Paladin. So his strategy going into this tournament is targeting that one deck, just knowing how popular and good it is against most other decks. He's just bringing 3 decks that beat it pretty consistently, and the Rat is taking the more traditional strategy of just bringing his 3 best decks to the board.
Yeah, so Shoop with just all the options on his side right now. I mean, he really doesn't have a bad play. He could kind of just, you know, roll the dice to choose his options right now and still be all right with it. Like he's going to innervate out this keeper. Don't blame him for that. Easy trade on that 3-2. And he even wants to trade up the dragon instead of having a wider spread on the board. So a little bit of considerations for consecration taken on his side as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much he knows about the Rat, but the Rat does seem to be playing a fairly traditional Secret Paladin deck. Not too much wild stuff.
Yeah, definitely kind of the kind of player I think that's capable of cutting consecration from his build. Just being okay with the fact that when he gets overwhelmed, and the rest of the time looking to just always be the one pressuring his opponent. But he is definitely behind right now, and Sir Finley's going to look to extend that lead even further. Not the greatest options. Totem's certainly not bad with all the Savage Roars you have, but he can already fill his board up this turn with Echoing Ooze, so I don't see him going for that option.
What if he just plays the dude and doesn't play the... oh, no, he can fill up the board completely here. No, I thought he had 5 minions as well, but no, he has 5 with the Paladin Hero Power. So no, this is actually absolutely the best play. Gives him a massive Savage Roar. This is a 14 damage Savage Roar. Probably going to drop to 12 from the True Silver hit, but that's still very sizable.
Yep, I don't see any way the Rat is winning this game. That is a ton of damage packed behind that Savage Roar. And Shoop's open, and 3 zeros the Secret Paladin from the Rat. Unbelievable comeback.
I don't believe he has lethal, does he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes, easily lethal. Never mind.
You just said it yourself. Savage Roar was 12 damage.
Yeah.
That's a ton. It's not very often you can get 12 damage out of that bad boy.
Yeah, but that board had, like, no attack on it.
What do you mean? It had 3, 4, 5... He had 8 attack among his 6 minions in play.
Yeah, that is going to do it. Shoop counters the Secret Paladin successfully. And my guess, I mean, this is an open tournament, my guess is he is very used to doing that. And Shoop will advance.
Yeah, wow. I mean, what a comeback. I mean, to start 0-2 of the series, your mentality just has to be shot after that. But you kind of looking at his face, he didn't really seem like he was fazed by it. It almost felt like this was a normal thing for him, where he's like, oh yeah, of course, I'm trying to play against this Secret Paladin deck. Let's get it queued up and then show you what my lineup actually does. Now, he did have to run the Secret Paladin mirror match, where he took the lead and kept it the entire time, so, a bit of a tough one there for the Rat, but, the other 2 matchups, those are brutal. I would expect him to lose those 2 games most of the time.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we still have quite a few matches for you guys left. Today we will be covering 4 matches. We had just witnessed our first Shoop versus the Rat. Shoop coming up, the victor of that one. Coming up, we will have Phone Tap versus Chalky. And then the winners and losers will play each other for the 1st and 3rd place. There will be a distinction between 3rd and 4th place throughout all the ONOG tournaments. And, because a few World Championship points, a few extra Geico points, and a little bit of a monetary difference to consider that sometimes is worth outlining. We will take a little bit of a break before we get back into action. In the meantime, if you guys do want to go ahead and check out geico.onog.gg, check out what's going on this season, this 2016 ONOG circuit. While you're there, you guys are welcome to enter to try to win an Alienware X51R3. Very easy process. Might as well throw your name in the bucket. Maybe you'll win. Why not? And yeah. It's been a great run. We'll be right back, so we'll see you shortly.